Hello everyone and welcome to the biology lecture series, and today we'll be solving some of the practice problems that are related to the topic reproduction. So in the earlier lectures we have studied about the reproduction, how can we define the reproduction, okay, and then we talked about the types of reproduction. So there are two types of reproduction, asexual as well as the sexual reproduction. Then we talked about reproduction in the flowering plants, where we studied about the typical components or the parts of the flower, okay, and then we studied about the reproduction in the humans, okay, or in the higher organisms. So in this session we'll be discussing the practice problems and some of the objective type questions that are related to these topics. Clear? Now question number 1 is the clastogamous condition is present in. Okay, let's have a look at the options here. So these are the options. So they have given you the name of the plants. Okay, first is Brassica oleracea, second is Solanum tuberosum, third is Arachis hypogea, and fourth is Allium cepa. Okay, now clastogamous conditions, or what are clastogamous flowers? So what happens here? What are clastogamous flowers? Here the flowers remain closed. Okay, here the flowers, they remain closed. Okay, now if they remain closed means they are not exposed to the external environment. So we can write they are not exposed, or you can say the floral parts or the floral world, they are not exposed to the environment. Okay, so if they are not exposed to the environment means they are not exposed to the external pollen grains. Okay, so what will happen here? The flowers remain closed and this promotes self-pollination. So this will promote self-pollination because the external pollen, it cannot land on the stigma of this flower, which are closed, and if they are closed then this should promote the self-pollination. Okay, this is clear. Now this promotes self-pollination, or you can say it inhibits the cross-pollination. Clear? So this is the kind of survival strategy that are adopted by the clastogamous flowers. Clear? Now what should be the answer to this question? So answer is option number C, Arachis hypogea. Okay, so clastogamous condition is seen in Arachis hypogea. Now what is the explanation? So clastogamy is a reproductive strategy, okay, which is observed in certain plants where the flowers are capable of self-pollination. Okay, so the flowers remain closed and they undergo self-pollination. And what is self-pollination? Okay, it is the transfer of the pollens from the anther, okay, to the stigma of the same flower. Okay, so this is known as the self-pollination. So here self-pollination takes place without opening of the flowers. Okay, now in clastogamous plant, the flower remain closed throughout their development, preventing cross-pollination with other flowers. Clear? So this is known as clastogamous condition, or the presence of this closed flower. These are known as clastogamous flowers. Clear? The flowers which remain closed are known as clastogamous. Now let's talk about the next question. Which of the following regenerate with the help of layering? So this layering method we have already discussed in the previous lectures. So it is a kind of asexual reproduction. Okay, so let's have a look at the options. Option A is cactus, option B is rose, option C is mango, and option D is jasmine. So correct answer here is jasmine. Clear? Now what is the explanation here? So I've already told you, layering, it is a kind of asexual reproduction, or you can say it is a kind of vegetative propagation. So vegetative propagation also, it is a kind of asexual reproduction. Clear? In asexual reproduction, what happens? Only one parent is involved. Okay? Only one parent is involved, or you can also say uniparental. Clear? So layering, it is a kind of vegetative propagation in the plants, okay, and it's achieved through the method known as stem layering. So what happens in the stem layering? So this process involves burying a portion of the aerial stem in the soil. Okay, so a portion of the aerial stem, or you can say the branch of the aerial stem, okay, it is buried into the soil first, okay, where it develops roots while remaining attached to the parent plant. So this means that you bend the stem, okay, the stem is bent and then it is buried inside the soil, and then what happens after some times, the roots start developing from this stem. So these roots will be called as adventitious root. Okay, these roots will be called adventitious roots. Now what are adventitious roots? Roots that arise from the part other than the radicle. Usually the roots, they arise from the radicle. Okay, but if roots arise from any other part other than radicle, then they are known as the adventitious roots. Okay, so again, the part of the stem is buried and then it later on start developing roots while it is still attached to the parent plant. Okay, why it is still attached to the parent plant? To obtain the nutrition. Okay, because what happens, stem is not photosynthetic, it cannot prepare its own food, so it has to remain attached to the parent plant to obtain nutrition. Now once the root have established themselves sufficiently, the newly rooted portion is separated from the parent plant and then it grows independently. So first it will develop roots, okay, and then it will develop leaves also, and then it can be separated from the parent plant and then it can grow independently. So now it can photosynthesize also because it has leaves, and it can be separated and grown independently from the parent plant. So this process is known as layering. Clear? Or known as the stem layering, and it is a kind of asexual reproduction. And which kind of asexual reproduction? Vegetative propagation. Now next question is development of the egg without fertilization. So usually what happens, the egg is fertilized, all right, by the sperm, if you talk about the humans, okay, or it is fertilized by the male gametes, okay, which is produced by the pollen grains. But sometimes what happens, these egg develop without the fertilization. So this also we have already discussed. What is this phenomena called? This is known as, option A is parthenocarpy, option B is polyembryony, option C is parthenogenesis, and option D is adventive embryony. Okay, now let's have a look at these terms individually. So parthenocarpy is the development of seedless fruits. Okay, development of the seedless fruits, okay, without fertilization. Without fertilization. Okay, usually what happens, the egg is fertilized, all right, but sometimes the egg is not fertilized and the ovary develops into the fruit. But here what happens, these fruit are without the seeds, okay, or you can say the fruits are produced in which the seeds are not viable. Okay, during this process of parthenocarpy, seeds which are produced, they are not viable. The fruits, we can call them seedless fruit. Okay, and this parthenocarpy can be induced by the help of certain hormones, okay, certain plant hormones such as auxins. So auxins, it can induce parthenocarpy. Okay, example can be, you can take an example of grapes and the watermelons. So seedless grapes and watermelons can be produced by parthenocarpy. Clear? Now next is polyembryony. Polyembryony is the presence of more than one embryo in the seed. So poly means many. So simply we can say presence of more than one embryo, okay, in a seed. If we talk about the plants, okay, this is known as polyembryo. Okay, more than one embryo. Now next is parthenogenesis. So parthenogenesis is the development of the egg without the fertilization. Alright, this is clear. What is fertilization? Fusion of the male and the female gamete. This is known as fertilization. So what should be the answer? Option C should be the answer. Now let's talk about option D, adventive embryony. So here what happens? The embryo develops from the fusion of the male and the female gamete. Okay, if we talk about plants also, we have seen during the double fertilization, the egg, it fuses with the male gamete and an embryo develops from that. Okay, first zygote will develop and then zygote will form the embryo. So during adventive embryony, what happens? The embryo develops from the part other than the parts of the embryo sac. So what happens? The embryo may develop from, you can say, the nucellus region, nucellar region, or from the integuments. Okay, instead of the cells of the embryo sac. Okay, instead of the cells of the embryo sac, which is the egg cell. Okay, so because of this, okay, integument is the part of the ovule also, nucellus also. So embryo can develop from nucellus, cells of the nucellus, or from the integuments. This is known as adventive embryony. Okay, clear? So what should be the answer? Parthenogenesis should be the right answer here. Now next question, it is a straightforward question. Anemophily is the pollination by, so this question we have already studied. What is anemophily? Okay, let's have a look at the options. Option number A is air, option number B is water, option number C is insects, and option number D is animal. Okay, so what should be the answer? Okay, first, pollination by air. Okay, it is known as anemophily. Then pollination by water, this is known as hydrophily. Means water is the carrier of the pollen grains. Pollination by insect, this is known as entomophily. Okay, and pollination by animals, this is known as zoophily. Alright, so sometimes the pollination can be done by, you can see, birds and mammals also. Okay, some of the mammals are also involved in pollination. Clear? And pollination by air is known as anemophily. Clear? Insects, if we talk about entomophily, insects such as bees, okay, and fly, these can carry the pollens along with them. And when they sit on the flower, they can transfer the pollen to the stigma. Clear? So what should be the answer? Option number A, air. Next question is pollination between different flowers of the same plant. Okay, so what is happening here? The pollen is being transferred from the anther, okay, to the stigma of the different flower of another flower. Okay, but this flower is present on the same plant. Okay, so this phenomena is called, options are autogamy, nitonogamy, allogamy, and xenogamy. Clear? So autogamy and nitonogamy, these come under the self-pollination. Okay, and allogamy and xenogamy, these are the type of cross pollination. Okay, this is clear. Auto means self. Here what happens? The pollens from the anther are transferred to the stigma of the same flower. Okay, here you can write same flower. Okay, so this should be the answer. The tonogamy, here the pollens are transferred from the anther to the stigma of the another flower. Okay, that is present on the same plant. Okay, allogamy and xenogamy, they are the part of cross pollination. Okay, so in allogamy what happens? The anthers are transferred, the pollens are transferred from the anther to the stigma of the another flower of the same species. Okay, and in so allogamy you can write here transfer of pollens, okay, occur between the flowers which belong to the same species, or you can say which are genetically similar. Xenogamy, here what happens? There is a transfer of pollen from the anthers to the stigma of the flower that is genetically not, okay, similar. Okay, so here what is happening in xenogamy? The pollens are being transferred to the stigma of the another flower that is present on another plant, okay, which is genetically not similar. Okay, here you can write another plant. Okay, here also in allogamy also another plant, or the pollens are transferred to the another plants, okay, of the same species. Clear? So what should be the answer here? The tonogamy. Okay, here the pollens are transferred from the anther to the stigma of the another flower that is present on the same plant. Clear? So it is a kind of self-pollination. Now next question is double fertilization. What is double fertilization? So this you already know. Two male gametes, they are released, okay, by the pollen grains, and they enter into the, or you can say the pollen tube enters into the embryo sac through the micropylar end. So what happens? One of the male gamete, it fuses with the what? Egg cell. And what it will form? It will form the zygote. Clear? And next, the second male gamete, okay, it will fuse with what? It will fuse with the two polar bodies. Okay, or we can say central cell. Okay, it will fuse with the two polar bodies, and it will form a triploid structure known as the endosperm. Okay, this is clear. So this is known as the double fertilization. Here the fusion of the male gamete is taking twice. Okay, first with the egg cell, and the second male gamete fuses with the two polar bodies. This is clear. So this phenomena is known as double fertilization, and the fusion of the second male gamete. Okay, this is the first male gamete, fusion of the second male gamete with the two polar bodies. This is known as what? This is known as triple fusion. Why it is known as triple fusion? Because three cells are involved. Okay, one male gamete and two polar bodies. So let's have a look at the options. Fusion of two male gamete with the egg cell. Okay, fusion of one male gamete with the egg and the other male gamete with the polar bodies. So this should be the answer. Option number C, both are correct. Not okay, this is not the answer, and option D is also not the answer. So what should be the answer? Fusion of one male gamete with the egg cell and the other male gamete with the polar bodies. Okay, so again I will explain you using the structure of the embryo sac. So this is the chalazal end. Okay, this one is the micropilar end. So what happens during double fertilization? The pollen tube, it will enter through here, through the micropilar end. So this is the pollen tube and it carries the two male gametes. At the micropilar end, what is present? At the micropilar end, this is the egg cell. Okay, so this one is the egg cell, which is haploid, and these two, okay, these two are synergids, which are again haploid. Then in the center we have the two polar bodies. So these are two polar bodies. And at the chalazal end, again 3 cells are present, which are known as the antipodal cell. So these are known as the antipodal cells, which will be again haploid. So one of the male gamete, it will fuse with the egg cell, okay, and the other will fuse with these two polar bodies. So this is known as the double fertilization. Clear? And this is the structure of, you can say, embryo sac of the angiosperms, which are also known as flowering plants. Clear? The next question is the structure meant for the nourishment of the developing embryo in the case of plant is, so you know, during the triple fusion, what is formed, and a triploid structure is formed, which is known as the endosperm. And this endosperm provides nourishment to the developing embryo. So let's have a look at the options. Options are pollen tube, second option is endosperm, third option is both A and B are correct, and fourth option is none of these. So what should be the answer here? Endosperm. Endosperm provides nourishment which is formed, okay, during the triple fusion, where one of the male gamete, it fuses with the two polar bodies. So what happens here? How an endosperm is formed? When one of the male gamete, it fuses with the two polar bodies. Okay, then what it will form? It will form the triploid structure known as the endosperm. Clear? The next question is the embryo sac of a typical dicot at the time of fertilization is, okay, so we are talking about a dicot plant. So dicots are flowering plants. They come under the category of angiosperms. The options are there. It is 8-celled, 7-celled, 6-celled, or 5-celled. So in the previous questions, we have seen the structure of the embryo sac. So embryo sac, I will draw again here. So this is the embryo sac, and the question is, they are asking at the time of fertilization. So what happens again? Here we have the antipodal cells. Okay. Here we have the egg cell and the synergids, and in center we have the two polar bodies. So these are the antipodal cell, okay, which will be haploid. Okay, then these are the two polar bodies, and these polar bodies, they fuse together to form the central cell. Okay, and here is this one is the egg cell, which is again haploid, and these two are the synergids. Okay, so what is happening here? So this is 1 cell, 2 cell, 3 cells. Okay, so 3 cells here. Okay, 3 cells here, 1, 2, and 3. 3 cells here at the micropilar end. Okay, clear? This egg as well as the synergids, these two combined are known as the egg apparatus. 3 cells we have here, 3 cells we have here, in total 6 cells, and these polar bodies, they will fuse at the time of fertilization. So a single cell will be formed. Okay, so here we can write, we have one cell with two nucleus. Okay, so total cell 3 plus 1 is 4, 4 plus 3 is, so we can write 3 plus 1 plus 3, and this will be 7 celled. Okay, 3 antipodals, 1 will be the central cell, which consists of 2 polar bodies, and these 3 cells will be 1 egg cell and 2 synergids. Clear? Which gives us 3 celled, or we can say 8 nucleated. If we talk in the terms of nucleus, then it should be 8 nucleated. Clear? So answer is option number B, 7 celled. The next question is, the genetic information is stored in, and the options are DNA, RNA, ribosome, or endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so DNA is deoxyribose nucleic acid, RNA is ribose nucleic acid. Ribosomes, these are the organelles that are involved in the protein synthesis, and ER is the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, which is again involved in the protein synthesis when they combine with the ribosomes, and they are also involved in the lipid synthesis also. So we can write protein synthesis, lipid synthesis, as well as steroid synthesis. Okay, they are also involved in carbohydrate metabolism. Okay, carbohydrate metabolism. Clear? So genetic information. So earlier RNA was the genetic material initially. Then later on there were some modifications, and now DNA is the genetic material, means it stored all the information. Okay, DNA is more stable than RNA. Okay, structurally also, chemically also. So now DNA is the genetic material. Okay, and it carries all the information. So it carries all the you can say information that is translated into proteins. All right, so what should be the answer here? DNA carries all the genetic information, and according to the central dogma, DNA is first converted into RNA. Okay, and this process is known as the transcription. Okay, and RNA is further translated into proteins. So the information in the DNA, okay, finally it is translated into proteins. So from RNA to proteins, this process is known as translation, and this is known as the central dogma. Clear? Now let's move on to the next question. Now each female flower consists of, options are ovary, stigma, ovary style and stigma, and thalamus. Okay, so if we talk about the female flower, they are talking about the female flower. So what is the female reproductive part? It is known as the gynoecium. And gynoecium consists of what? It consists of the pistil. Alright, or you can say carpel also. Clear? So this pistil, this is made up of pistil. It has 3 components. The swollen, okay, this is the base. This is the base which is swollen. Okay, and this is known as what? This is known as the ovary. So the swollen base is known as the ovary. Then you have this tube-like structure which is known as the style, and then the upper region is known as the stigma, which is the receptive part, means it receives the pollen. Okay, so this is the structure of the pistil, or you can say it is the female reproductive part. Okay, and it is known as the gynoecium. Clear? Now this ovary consists of the ovules and the ovules will consist of the embryo sac. Alright, so female flower will have ovary style as well as the stigma. A stigma is the receptive part, means it receives the pollen and it decides whether the pollen is compatible or incompatible, which is depend on the chemicals that are released by the stigma, and these are recognized by the pollen, and then pollen will germinate and the pollen tube will move through this style, which is a tube-like structure. Okay, so this is a tube-like structure. The pollen tube will travel through the style and then it will finally enter into the ovule. Clear? So what should be the answer here? Answer is ovary style and stigma. Clear? So this was the end of this session. We'll talk about the reproductive system in the humans in the next lecture. Thank you very much for listening.